you have to be a part of the change also. You have to be the one who calls out the negative parts of it, who tries to uplift it. Because, while I do think that we need to take lots of funds out of the police, and we need to really reallocate a lot of these billions of dollars that we're giving to police departments all over the country, I don't necessarily think we need to just get rid of police,
Mm-hmm.
where I can hear and I can understand the argument, and I can see how it can work in different places. I do think it's also just like we need to restructure the way policing works.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Like when you see that kind of culture, like policing, like you should always have some sort of like law enforcement. For example, like say if your guy is coming like into your house to burgle you, like I think that would be obviously we would want to very much lower that, but it's going to happen. Like it's unfortunately the problem with the evils of humanity. But the fact that I think we need to create and like strengthen other roles in society that have been so far for so long kind of just destroyed and wiped out to serve the funding and the militarization of the police. For example, like we've seen like healthcare workers, they weren't even able to get their masks in time to fight a pandemic, but of course the police have all this kind of beefy gear and like tactical military type weapons. And there's also like social workers problems, mental health problems, like that. Those issues are just not being addressed.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it. I also really think that the good thing is like I'm before we kind of move on and change gears here. What do you kind of see these protests are? Do you get a good sense that there will be some kind of change happening from these protests?
I hope so. I really hope that, we see a lot of trends, and we see a lot of people go in and out of activism, and that can happen, and that has happened in this movement so far. But I really do hope, and I do think honestly that change is going to come with this. I think that the fact that we have the coronavirus, everyone has been home for months, everyone wants to care about something, and this is the perfect thing to care about. I think that adds to it, and I really think that it's getting everyone motivated to get out and do something. People don't want to tolerate it anymore, and people want to be the change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's great to see, and I hope it continues, and I hope it's not just a fad, and I hope it's not a trend.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be very, very important. Like, people can't give up before all like I really don't think people can like really give up until the changes have been really seen through,
Definitely.
And I think in terms of change, like we've had a lot of the people in like mainstream elements of the Democratic Party, they have really pushed us to believe that voting plays a role in this. I think you can definitely like, there's no denying that Joe Biden would be better than Trump, but what role do you see voting in playing in terms of making these big reforms?
So I was a big Bernie Sanders supporter, and it was really sad to see what the establishment did to him and to see all the things that happened. But I think right now voting is truly important, and I think people know that, we have we have Trump, and it's like we're not going to get through another 4 years with this, in my opinion. We're not going to – it's going to be really bad. I think like most people can see that. And I think with the CNN polls that came out today, obviously polls are untrustworthy in this day, but you just look at a poll like that and it's so like, it's just telling of how people are feeling, I think. But I think voting is going to be key. And I think it goes to local, it goes to your state assemblyman, and it goes to voting for your congressional districts. You want to see the progressive change in your local communities. Like in our community, Mondaire Jones is running, and he's tied with 3 other people. One of them being an oil billionaire, the other 2 being, they're still good candidates, but a little bit on the moderate side. We have opportunity for real change on local levels, which will equal eventually on a greater level. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think like it can be hard to kind of motivate yourself to vote for a guy who's Mr. like don't shoot them in the heart, shoot them in the leg type person. But I think it could definitely be.
Yeah, that was one of the stupidest things he said, and he said a lot of stupid things.
Yeah. Joe Biden there,
Oh my god,
talking about it, and of course, literally just 2 weeks before, something like, "If you don't want to vote for me, don't vote for me if you're."
No.
Yeah, you know the comment, but
I just think that's like super telling of the way the Democrats kind of just don't value the African American support they have.
Is there anything
really? Yeah.
Is there anything that kind of like jumps out that you would like to see the Democrats do up until this period in terms of winning the election and getting and securing, like, making decent gains with like black support and not taking it for granted?
What they need to do, they need to really pick a good VP. That's going to be really key. I'm not really sure. I've been thinking of different people, and I don't really know, because the second you pick the vice president is the second that the whole comes to light, and everything will be nitpicked. So it's going to be tough. There's a lot of good options, bad options, and we'll see what they pick. That's a very big part of it. And I also think that Joe Biden needs to take in some progressive law. He needs to take in the progressive things that Bernie was saying in his campaign and implement parts of it to his campaign. Obviously, Bill's not going to start endorsing it, and is not take over these things, but he needs to start. And he wants to get that support with the wider base and the wider and different types of people. That's what he has to do.
Yeah, I definitely think you should at least try and make some sort of inroads. I think a big part of this, it really shows you why protests work. Like, I remember seeing a tweet going around like a week ago or so about how there would be no like legislative response to these police protests, like Nancy Pelosi aides people saying like absolutely not. But now we do see a response being put out by the Democrats, and it kind of started today with a bunch of them kind of taking a knee while wearing the traditional kente cloth in Emancipation Hall, which I don't know how many people felt too good about that, but
that was so in such poor taste.
Yeah, do you want to go into a little like why that is?
It was just so like, I don't know like who that had to go through, but I just think that when you see like Nancy Pelosi, who last year I think it was said in response to if she supports Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, word for word, and you see these moderate Democrats who are kneeling with the kente scarf and who have hurt the community through the laws that they've refused to pass and the laws that they have passed in the past. So I just think that it was in such poor taste, and there's a difference between like making a stand and getting your voice out and kind of just doing this performative activism, which is a phrase we're hearing a lot now. Very
similar to the kind of black squares on Instagram type thing. Yeah.
It's just very performative, and it doesn't feel genuine. And it just, that picture, those videos are just like, it's just, that was so 2020. That's just.
Yeah, well, luckily that hasn't been the only thing that they've been doing. They have tried to introduce legislation, according to the New York Times, on Monday, aimed at ending excessive force by police officers across the country and making it easier to identify, track, and prosecute police misconduct. So the measure would curtail existing legal protections that shield police officers who are accused of misconduct from being prosecuted and would impose new restrictions to prevent law enforcement officers from using deadly force except as a last resort. Includes many proposals that civil rights activists have been pushing for decades against oppositions from police unions and law enforcement groups. So, yeah, it seems like the reforms here at least are not that specific because I don't know how much of the bill has been released widely. But I think, I don't know, I really kind of do question whether the Democratic Party, I'm sure they can make some steps in the right direction in terms of more moderate reform, but I think the biggest change is going to come from, I think, people protesting and voting for people like those on the Minneapolis City Council who can make a pledge. At least it is a pledge at the moment, but it is, I think, pretty substantive to completely dismantle and defund their police department.
Yeah, change comes from the people, and the people are out on the streets are not protesting for what they want. And I think that's how you get change, Protests need numbers, and the numbers are showing up. And I think the numbers are just going to start to increase like throughout the summer.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I definitely hope so. it's
I hope so
has
as well.
really been cool and encouraging to see people come out there.
Definitely.
I'm definitely I haven't been able to get out there yet, but
Mm.
I am like I feel like if I don't get out there, like it's an embarrassment to like
Yeah.
all these
It's like,
people are out there like doing
yeah,
these things, and people are gonna like ask where were you, and it's like I
I
didn't
know.
do it. It's just like
Yeah,
yeah, you really feel like you do have to get out
they
there.
really do.
Yeah, so I do want to kind of turn the page now to an interesting thing that we've been having. Of course, me, if you don't know, me and Zane do go to the same high school, and it is it's a like how would you do, and we unfortunately have been kind of a discussion or the center of kind of some community controversy,
Yeah.
and of course, appearance unfortunately on the Perez Hilton Instagram page
Yes.
about a racist incident. Now I would turn over to you, Zane, to give the background on like what's been going
Yeah.
on with that in our community.
So in February, five freshmen made a TikTok that, well, one person made a TikTok with four other freshmen who would just say they said the N word in it, with no like reason, just saying it in the TikTok, and that happened in February on Valentine's Day. And that video resurfaced recently in light of everything that's happening in the world, and people were sending it around, and it created a huge uproar amongst our school, and people emailing the district and sending the video and asking for like what was the punishment? We need more punishment. Why weren't we informed of this video? What is happening? And with that, there was a lot of other videos and pictures of other students in our school found of other racist content. And it was just like it's been a very hectic few days where the school has had to address a lot of racism in our school with students, and things have come out that are just truly shocking, and I wouldn't say surprising, but definitely shocking.
Yeah, like I definitely think just to kind of give you like we have kind of a mostly white and relatively high ranked, like kind of well off, I would say,
Yeah, very
school,
affluent.
and to kind of give you the pretty much what happened was this girl was going around to these like boys in again her freshman year and was saying like would you be my Valentine, and they would respond with the N word, which was all like hard R. It's very cringy, kind of awful video to watch. It's just like like this is like kind of incredible, and the fact that like I've like seen these kids, kind of know them and
Yeah.
peripherally, and it's like they're part of the community. And of course, they were given a 2-day suspension, and
Yeah,
of course,
I agree.
that has been kind of viewed by some as not enough. And again, and that's kind of a thing. Like I kind of have two questions. Just this kind of a curiosity thing to like understand the situation, because I do think it is kind of a question worth asking. Is like how did this video get resurfaced? And in your mind, because you, Zane, you did talk to the school board about this today. They did have a meeting about this, and you talked to them about this. What would you like to see in terms of punishment?
You know, I understand why they can't further the punishment. The punishment has been done, and I really don't think that just punishing these kids to the fullest extent is necessarily the right way to go. It's really about structural change within our town and within our school. Changing the curriculum to put spotlight on more people of color authors and people of color history lessons. And really giving these kids who are predominantly white in our town, a new perspective on the world, and to see what systemic racism really is and what people not like them go through in this country and in this world. And I think that's really important. But of course, you have to hold these kids accountable, and you have to just understand that these acts and these things that are happening, these racist things are happening. These kids saying the N-word on video and saying really terrible things about black people. You have to understand it's like a reflection of the town we live in, and it's a reflection of the community and the environment we're in.
Yeah, I would definitely say, like, just based on my experience, like, it's not like a kind of a situation where we're seeing, like, people beat up, like, the African-American kids or anything, like, horrific like that. But I think the truth is, like, there are way too many times, like, where I've seen, at least in my experience, I don't know if your experience has been probably a little bit different. I'm sure it has, because like I have seen video, like just times where people like throwing around things that are like, whether it be like slurs or jokes, like a lot of times happening at a young ages, like very casually, like way too casually. And why would you have, first of all, have you kind of experienced the same thing too? And like, how has, feel free to share if your experience has been different than mine in any way.